Springfield's Talk 1041. Good Tuesday morning. Today's the day that Democrats in Maine officially have the opportunity to decide whether to attempt to send an admirer of Nazism to the U.S. Senate, and assuredly they will, probably by a full majority. There are a couple of other people on the ballot that are options, too, that are actively running, but they don't have ties to Nazism. They don't have an admiration for Nazis, and so they're doing very poorly. 2% here, 3% there. There's the former governor of Maine as well, Mills, who suspended her campaign. And that is because, though she's wildly popular as the current Democrat governor of Maine, once it was revealed that Plattner was such an admirer of Nazism that skyrocketed him in terms of popularity amongst the Democrat voters there. So Mills suspended her campaign, not wanting to be humiliated by someone who embraces Nazism. And though last week she did acknowledge, hey, I'm still on the ballot. I didn't drop out. I just suspended my campaign. It is clear the direction that the Democrat Party has taken, particularly since October 7th and that attack against Israel, the terrorist attack there, and we saw the uprising in this country. I don't know why this is a stunning surprise to anyone. This should not be seen as perplexing. You know, but some of you may not realize this. The Nazis, they were socialists. This is the German Workers' Socialist Party. That's what Nazi was. German Workers' Socialist Party. Who's the highest profile socialist elected in this country? Bernie Sanders. Who is he out there campaigning for? The guy who admires Nazis. I mean, it's almost remarkable how clear this is. That the socialist in this country, Ocasio-Cortez is another one. Who is she supporting? Graham Plattner. I mean, this is all very clear. German Workers' Socialist Party, the Nazis. The socialists within the Democrat Party are supporting for the U.S. Senate the one Democrat that admires Nazis. It's because they're one and the same. This is not that difficult to grasp. I think it is actually, from a human perspective, difficult to grasp because we almost find it unfathomable that any human being would align themselves with Nazis, particularly given the Democrats have projected and been calling Trump a Nazi, calling Trump Hitler all this time, when they support the ideology that was the Nazi Party, socialism. And they currently are putting all their clout and their dollars behind a guy who is a socialist who loves Nazis. This is all pretty straightforward stuff. And as difficult as it is for human beings to just, I think, caring, logical human beings to recognize that the Democrat Party has gotten humanity back full circle to where Nazism's like, well, maybe it's not so bad. I kid you not, Graham Plattner, that they could find a family of Jewish people locked up in his cellar, and Democrats would still vote for him. I'm not kidding. Graham Plattner, he could have actually been, again, a different timeline, an actual concentration camp Nazi, like he apparently admired, hence the tattoo. And Democrats would be like, well, he was just doing his job. No, you can't really blame him. I mean, he had to do it. Wasn't really his choice. Can't blame him for that. The economy wasn't that great. There weren't a lot of job options out there. This is what they would say. There was a Democrat voter. It looked like it was some event Democrat event in Maine. I'll play the audio in a bit, in which she was asked about the Nazi tattoo. And, oh, you find this bothersome? Oh, no. The follow-up question is, well, would it be disqualifying if he had an Israeli flag tattoo? Oh, yeah, that would be disqualifying. Kid you not. You have actual, and a white liberal woman, looks like she's in her 60s, of course. Think about that for a moment. The Democrat Party has gotten to the place where, for their voters, or at least a significant portion of them, embracing Nazism it's okay. I may not agree with it, but it certainly isn't disqualifying. But showing support for people of the one Jewish nation in this country, that is a disqualifier. Total disqualifier. I mean, these people would have been standing in line to be blessed by Hitler. They're cut from his cloth. All right, the Pyramid Roofing Company text line 447-KSGF. Oh, and they've pretty much, some of the media outlets have officially declared that Spencer Pratt is not going to be in the top two vote getting. The socialist candidate in Los Angeles that was beaten so poorly with the actual vote day, the election day count, she cried. She not teared up, but ugly cried. She was so humiliated. Apparently didn't understand the racket. Because within a weekend, 40, 50, 60,000 votes found for her. But of course, there's no reason to suspect that is unusual whatsoever. In fact, it is wrong if you dare question that. A lot of people don't recognize also, this hasn't been talked about too terribly much, that just days before the election, Gavin Newsom signed into a law in California that went into effect immediately. This was right before the election. That poll watchers, when these ballots are coming in through the mail and when they're finding all of these ballots, you're supposed to there's supposed to be a signature match that is done. So you get an envelope, you're supposed to sign the envelope, and then that signature is supposed to match the signature at voter registration. This is one of the ways that they make sure the elections are free and fair. Gavin Newsom on May 27th, I think it was May 27th, it was just prior to the election, signed in a law saying that the election observers that are supposed to be there to make sure everything's on the up and up, were no longer legally able to challenge whenever they saw that the signatures did not match. So in other words, they're pointless. Well, yes, we'll have poll observers, but you can't actually do anything. It's now against the law. He did it in the name of election integrity, of course. Because like anything, particularly with Democrats, but oftentimes with government, if there's any legislation passed that has this fanciful, lofty name to it, you can guarantee it's going to do the opposite. Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. A heat advisory is in effect until 7 a.m. Wednesday. Today we'll see a slight chance for showers in the morning, otherwise mostly sunny with a high near 89, heat index values as high as 100. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 72. For your Wednesday, sunny with a high near 89 and heat index values as high as 97. And for Thursday, a chance for showers in the afternoon, otherwise sunny with a high near 90.
Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. If you want, you don't even, maybe, like, I don't know if I need the absolute best, but you want the best, right? Why not? When it comes to home buying, when it comes to home selling, Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty, she's an absolute expert. This is what she does. There are thousands of realtors in the area. She's noted that it's not the most difficult thing in the world to get a realtor's license, and it's not the most financially prohibitive thing as well. It's one of those endeavors that if you put a little bit of effort into it, pretty much anyone can do it, which means that you have a huge spectrum of level of dedication and talent when it comes to actual realtors. Standards aren't necessarily real tight, which means you need to be aware of that. And she always recommends interview people. It's like a job. You are, quote, hiring someone. They are going to get paid for doing this job for you. And just like any other position, I mean, you think about it, if you're hiring somebody to navigate you through and to help negotiate for you the single largest purchase personally you're going to make in your life. Kind of makes sense to talk to more than one person when it comes to the hiring process, doesn't it? So I recommend it, and I recommend that Emily Johnson be one of those interviewees for your home buying needs, home selling needs. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. There is a trial that is slated to kick off this week that isn't getting near the attention it probably should, given the magnitude of the crime. Yet when you understand the political landscape, it makes perfect sense why it is not getting attention. The man who federal prosecutors say was ticked off at the world before allegedly igniting the Palisades fire goes on trial this week in Los Angeles. Roughly a year and a half after the deadly and historically destructive blaze claimed the lives of a dozen people and scorched thousands of homes and businesses. Jonathan Rinderknecht had an obsession with fire, fire-setting behavior, and a motive for starting the fire, which began as the Lockman Fire on January 1st, 2025, according to the trial memo. That blaze continued to smolder underground, and prosecutors allege resurfaced on January 7th and exploded into the Palisades Fire, in which roughly a dozen people lost their lives, burned to death. And, of course, thousands upon thousands of people had their homes eliminated by way of that fire. Prosecutors accuse Rinderknecht of using ChatGPT to create dystopian images showing crowds fleeing from the flames, but the judge ruled that those images cannot be used at trial. Prosecutors also said he was fixated on Luigi Mangione, the darling of the Democrat Party, who is charged with shooting and killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in Manhattan roughly a month before the Palisades disaster. In an email statement to CNN, Stephen Haney, an attorney for Rinderknecht, said that, quote, many people will look at this case in a much different light when the trial evidence reveals the facts. The pretrial narrative created by the government is woefully slanted. Jonathan did not commit the crime he's charged with, Haney wrote, and, of course, he is his defense attorney. Rinderknecht was working as an Uber driver in the Palisades on December 31st, 2024, and January 1st, 2025. Prosecutors said he was frustrated with his inability to make any plans or find companionship on New Year's Eve. Several of his passengers that day later would tell investigators that he was driving erratically and appeared angry, intense, ranting about being ticked off at the world, according to the memo. Typical left-wing behavior. After dropping off his final passengers in the Pacific Palisades, surveillance video showed Rinderknecht hiking up a nearby trail in the wealthy enclave where he recorded video on his phone, the memo says. He lit the fire around 12:12 a.m. on New Year's Day, watched it grow, then tried calling 911 multiple times, according to the court documents. He left the area in his car before fire crews arrived on the scene, then returned and shot videos of the firefight, the documents say. Rinderknecht's attorneys say their client did not start the Lockman fire, and prosecutors cannot link him to the Palisades fire, arguing in a court filing that investigators initially disclaimed any connection after obtaining search warrants on potential Palisade fire suspect, none of whom had ties to Rinderknecht. Quote, but when the trail went cold, 8 months later the nexus was claimed and Rinderknecht was charged, they say in a court brief. So the prosecutor's like, we got video of the guy. We have all these witnesses, put him there. He filmed him, we have video of him starting the fire. Rinderknecht ranted to passengers about Luigi Mangione, capitalism, and vigilantism, according to the memo. A few weeks earlier, his online searches included Mangione-related news and phrases like free Luigi Mangione and let's take down all the billionaires and let's kill all the billionaires. Now, which of the two political parties has talked about how, quote, billionaires shouldn't exist? I think we know which of those two political parties has talked about the elimination of billionaires. On January 3rd, 2025, he took a screenshot of an article about Mangione pleading not guilty. Weeks later, Rinderknecht was asked by investigators why someone would commit arson in the Pacific Palisades. He said that it would be out of resentment of the rich enjoying their money, as we're basically being enslaved by them. Now, this, of course, is another pillar of Democrat belief system, that people who don't have as much as they want don't have it because other people do. That those who are wealthy have it only because they have stolen it from people like that. Not because they've worked hard. Not because they get up, go to work every day. Not because they save. Not because they invest. They're stealing it from usually left-wing activists that live in their parents' basement or couch surf or live in subsidized housing. By focusing on Rinderknecht's alleged fixation with Luigi Mangione, prosecutors are drawing parallels to an extremely high-profile case in which a defendant is alleged to have committed a crime as payback to wealthy people that they believe have taken advantage of those that are less fortunate. Now, this was, in modern times, one of the most profoundly deadly fires, particularly in the continental United States. And there was the fire in Hawaii that took place several years ago. This was yet again another truly historic. People lost their lives. Thousands of homes burned to the ground. Not to mention, of course, the political component to it all, and the mayor who swore as mayor she would never leave the country, yet here she was in Ghana at cocktail parties not answering her phone while people were fleeing, desperately looking for loved ones in her city. Yet we're not hearing anything about this trial, hardly at all. It gets mentioned here or there, like as if it's just some sort of local trial of interest. And I think we know why it's not getting the attention it deserves. Because the accused has made statements that are talking points of the Democrat Party. And so yet again, here you have an individual, in this case, 12 people lost their lives, killed. Whether it's an attempt to kill Republicans at a softball game, or conservative judges, or Donald Trump, or Charlie Kirk, or a CEO of some sort of company, or, quote, rich people in California. It's always these left-wing Democrats that use as justification the talking points of the Democrat Party. And so it's much better for the media just to maybe give it a quick glance and then move on. Don't want to draw too much attention to the successes of the Democrat Party rhetoric. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. All right, coming up, we're going to get a check on the traffic here. And then down in Texas, James, Tallarico, there were all of these stories popping up in The Hill and Politico and others about a bombshell endorsement that was coming his way. Oh, a big upset for the Senate race there in Texas. Turns out not so much. I want a great homeloan.com for all of your home loan needs, refinancing. You may have really low interest rates that you're locked in with, and you think, I just don't want to budge. A lot of people have been in that position. I think many people are changing their minds because they are starting to recognize that in reality, the interest rate level now is not only not bad, but in the assessment of a lot of people in the financial world, it's actually good. It's just we got, it's like that period of time where they were, 3.0, or even I think maybe some got just a little below that even. They were so crazy low and unreasonably low. People keep clinging to that. And increasingly people are recognizing that that was probably a once-in-a-lifetime situation. It's not going to come along again. And so refinancing or getting that first home loan in order to purchase a home is something that's in the cards. The way I look at it is if you're paying rent, you're paying an interest rate now. You're paying the interest rate that is the owner's mortgage payment interest rate. So the only difference is you're putting equity into someone else's property instead of your own. My perspective. If you have any sort of questions, you have concerns, you're interested in learning more about what it could mean to refinance, get a home loan, or even a reverse mortgage, I want a great homeloan.com because you do.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. A heat advisory is in effect for the entire listening area until 7 a.m. Wednesday. Today we'll see a slight chance for showers in the morning, otherwise mostly sunny with a high near 89, heat index values as high as 100. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 72. For your Wednesday, sunny with a high near 89 and heat index values as high as 97. And for Thursday, a chance for showers in the afternoon, otherwise sunny with a high near 90.
Outlets like The Hill, Notice, countless local papers sprinting to write up bombshell endorsement coming for James Tallarico. James Tallarico's the weird little guy down in Texas that is the next great savior of the Democrat Party that is going to turn Texas blue, if you believe the media and the Democrat Party. Much like Beto O'Rourke. But for whatever reason, a political party that seems to recognize and acknowledges they recognize they have a problem courting men, particularly masculine one, they seem to be moving further and further away from it with their candidates and becoming more and more effeminate. They're doing it wrong. Other than Graham Plattner, which they still are doing it wrong. They just cannot. It's just, it's not that hard. I mean, I think the Graham Plattner thing and the recruitment of him is so perfect because it really does show what people on the left think a real man is. I mean, they're and the weird thing is they're actually drawn to him, but he's not. I mean, he's not what I would consider to be a real man. He's a Nazi and blames women for being raped, and he's a racist, and he manhandles women, and spent 10 years sending pictures of his private parts to people on a site that is known as a pedophile paradise. That being the Kick app, where underage girls as young as 13 are allowed to be. Yeah, that's not really what I think most Trump supporters consider to be a real man, what most conservatives consider to be a real man. Once again, the Democrats just missing the mark. So, and then Tallarico on the other end of the spectrum. These are all the Democrats are just a chaotic mess when it comes to trying to figure out what normal is. They just can't do it. They cannot do it. So the big bombshell there was a big endorsement coming. The endorsement is from someone you've never heard of, and most people in Texas has never heard of. One of the former Ken Paxton impeachment attorneys by the name of Dan Cogdell, who's a criminal defense attorney, and he's a lifelong Democrat. So this is supposed to be, Paxton was impeached by the establishment, or I don't know if he was successful. There was an impeachment attempt against him by the establishment Republicans in Texas. And he had a number of attorneys. Now, here's the thing about attorneys, is they will represent people more often than not, regardless of their political affiliation. Now, in the D.C. area, when it came to January 6ers, there was a little bit of shift away from that ethical approach, but nonetheless. So, the attempt here is to make it appear as if, well, one of Paxton's own allies, his own defense attorney, is endorsing Tallarico. Well, that's because he's a Democrat. Of course he's endorsing Tallarico. He's a lifelong Democrat. He votes for Democrats. He writes checks to Democrats. Being the attorney for Ken Paxton has nothing whatsoever to do with any of it. See, you're supposed to, see this as he's some sort of ally of Paxton's because he was paid to be as an attorney, and so that's what makes this even more profound. No. I mean, it's no more profound than if Paxton's, garbage guy that comes by every week and gets his garbage. I mean, that's his job. That's what he does. Doesn't matter what Paxton's political affiliation is. Doesn't matter what the garbage guy's political affiliation is. That's irrelevant. Same thing with being an attorney. And so here again, you have what is demonstration that Democrats don't have anything of real true substance when it comes to Tallarico, which is why he has to redefine himself. He goes from claiming that eating meat is an existential threat to humanity and declaring his campaign meat-free back in 2020 when he was running from the state Senate, to now sending out pics of himself eating giant turkey legs. Like so many of these other Democrats, they're empty. They are performative. Everything about the way that they behave is how they think people want them to behave in order to get elected. Even down to the food they eat. I know politicians are politicians, and there are going to be a lot of similarities in behavior regardless of your political affiliation, but you just don't see Republicans doing this stuff. You don't see Republicans declaring themselves vegan one day, and then when it becomes a different election, chowing down on meat sticks the next. Or vice versa. You just don't see it. Tallarico is now also claiming that he doesn't support trans surgeries for kids and so all that. No. This is a guy that once asked, other than family, who do you love most in the world? And he's like, trans kids. And how we should listen to them and support them with whatever it is that they want, or whatever they've had instilled in their minds and told that they want. We should support that. Suddenly now that he's trying to get the vote of the normal person in Texas, like every other Democrat, completely changes his position on a very serious and fundamental issue. During an appearance on a podcast, Tallarico claimed that he doesn't support gender-affirming surgery for minors. No. Why would anybody have that idea? Tallarico also the guy that has tried to use the Bible to justify transitioning kids. The host of the podcast said, James, I hear consistent tropes about you being way too liberal for Texas, that you're pro-sex surgery for minors and on and on. How do you respond to that? To which he said, well, just on that particular accusation, I oppose gender reassignment surgeries for minors. Well, I suspect that's going to be a pretty big surprise to a lot of the pro-surgery community in Texas. Tallarico has also said denying the gender mutilation of children is abuse, that he loves we just know the track record. When you have no moral compass, other than just a thirst for power, this is the behavior that comes of that. And it is an unfortunate reflection of a political party that's populated with voters that once upon a time would say, we need to put country above party. They put nothing, they don't even put their own issues above party any longer. I mean, this is a guy that has had a tremendous amount of support because he has made one of the main pillars of his campaigns in the past, and who he is giving trans kids whatever they want, and just really supporting it and being all in on it. Everything that the extreme left wants. And now suddenly he's like, what are you talking about? This is like when Democrats claimed, we're never for open borders. What are you talking about? Well, that's crazy talk. And the voters who supported them because they told themselves that they support those positions will still support them. Because they too have become empty. Just these mindless, empty bodies that chuck out ballots with a D on them and have apparently become satisfied with that being their lot in life. Springfield's Talk 1041. Streaming live, KSGF.com, the Pyramid Roofing Company text line 447-KSGF. I'm Nick Reed. The State of the City address came about yesterday. Now this is, or no, it's the 4th, a couple days ago. This is something most of you don't really know goes on, and the chamber gets a bunch of people together, and the mayor shows up. He's like, "Here's what it's kind of like a State of the Union or a State of the State, but it's a State of the City." And there were a couple things that, and there's a news leader story on this that I thought were pretty telling. One is not necessarily, I wouldn't imagine necessarily a good sign for residents of Springfield. To support continued growth, Mayor Schrag emphasized that Springfield, quote, must continue expanding housing opportunities. Now, of course, anytime people in big government decide it's the government's job to really take over the whole housing thing, it works famously. We know this. He went on to say, what does that mean? That means responsible development and creating housing choices at every single price point, growth done thoughtfully, growth done responsibly. Ask how the city can foster trust. This is where it gets good. Asked how the city can foster trust between developers and neighborhoods in light of reoccurring resistance to high-density housing, Schrag said the challenge is making residents understand that such developments won't negatively impact their life. Quote, I think we just keep trying, Schrag said at a press conference following the event. I just think we stay at the table, you know. The lesson that I take in things like that is a lesson we learned with the Hotel of Terror. We just never stop negotiating. I take that same track with the neighborhoods that are throwing up some ideas about some possible fears and some possible future fears and concerns and just see if there is a path forward. Now, if you are a resident of Springfield and the city is wanting to do something that you feel is counter to the benefit of your neighborhood, and so you have a conflict there. It's you, the citizen, versus the city of Springfield. And the mayor is saying, we're going to approach you the same way we did the Hotel of Terror. Does that make you feel real good? I love the rewriting of history, too, by describing what was done, the eventual breaking of the owners of the Hotel of Terror, as we just kept negotiating. That's what they call it. Oh, you just kept negotiating until you broke those poor people. So in this press conference, after the State of the City address, the mayor has declared that he is going to begin approaching average citizens, and the city of Springfield needs to approach average citizens who have concerns about certain things that the city is wanting to do the same way they dealt with the Hotel of Terror. You get that message? That's how you're going to be dealt with. How's that make you feel? And here's the thing. I don't think, and I don't know for sure, this is just my perception. Most people would see this as a threat. Oh, you remember how we dealt with Hotel of Terror? That's how we're going to deal with you. You have problems with the way we're doing things? The approach we took with the Hotel of Terror, because that's what he's saying. I don't think he sees it that way. These people, to me, live in such a bubble that they genuinely believe that, or at least I'm going to give Schrag the benefit of the doubt, that the way the Hotel of Terror thing worked out, I mean, it was just everybody won. And they just, finally, we just came to some sort of agreement, as opposed to we use taxpayer dollars to grind down these human beings who have provided an asset to the city for generations until they knuckled under and couldn't take it any longer. There's another quote in the news leader I want to share coming up. Going to get a traffic update. The Pyramid Roofing Company text line 447 KSGF. I'm Nick Reed. I said this was a news leader story. I stand corrected. It was the Springfield Citizen digital paper that had the story. Why not Springfield Mayor Jeff Schrag delivers state of the city with optimistic tone? And part of what he noted that moving forward, when citizens have concerns about developments, that he learned a lot in how to deal with people in the city's approach to Hotel of Terror. And that was the approach that they were going to take with citizens that have concerns. Now, I think in his mind that's a good thing. I don't think the way that all that played out and the eventual breaking of those people is something that the average citizen saw as positive, but no, just different perspectives. The other portion of this story, it was just kind of it was clunky in terms of the wording, which I found to be somewhat humorous, and the piece notes asked afterwards whether he believes this, talking about the people twice voting against the sales tax increase or the hotel motel tax for the convention center, asked whether he believed that posed a setback to the city's growth. Schrag simply said he continues to believe that it was one of the greatest economic development things we could do. What I've tried to take from that lesson is that the people were fully heard, that they did not want the tax, trying to find new ways to talk about economic development opportunities. I think a message I heard was, well, if we can't have thing A or then B, then why are we investing in thing C? And just that requires more discipline from people like me to try to paint a better picture of how if we do thing C, then we can better afford thing A and thing B, and drawing that line more carefully is my big takeaway. So got that? Now, I actually know what he's saying. And he's like, hey, when we want to do something and people are like, we don't want that because these are our priorities. He's saying our job is going to be to explain to them why our priorities need to be done in order for yours to be done. But what's interesting is this is the problem that this city has. Whether it is dealing with citizens the way that they dealt with Hotel of Terror, or explaining when the citizens tell the city that's not, we don't want that. Instead of saying, okay, message heard, we'll move on. What's your priority? The approach is we need to do a better job of making you understand why we are going to do what we believe needs to be done. This is just more of the same problem. And it's not to say that it's always going to be the wrong decision. It may at times be the right decision. But this, this self-reflection of, I guess our biggest problem is we just failed to make people understand, instead of we're failing to listen and to actually be extensions of the citizens and doing what they want. News in 60 seconds. I'm Nick Reed. Springfield's Talk 104.1. My name is Nick Reed, streaming live, KSGF.com. If you missed any of the show, we do have podcasts for your convenience. You can find them a number of places, including, of course, KSGF.com and the KSGF app. I wanted to share with you what Gloria had to say regarding Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor. We use Daniel Hunter twice. Both times he and his crew did an outstanding job, first job, connecting a drainage issue on our driveway. Every time it rained, we had a muddy mess. See, some of you probably noticing that now. But Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor corrected the issue 2 years ago, and we've had no problems since. They just completed a similar issue in our yard, this time installing AstroTurf. There were a number of steps involved. The crew was working every day by 7:30 a.m., putting in a full day. They did a wonderful job and left the entire area in better shape than when they started. We highly recommend Hunter Hardscape and Outdoor, as do I. And I talk so much, as these postings do as well, residential, but commercial properties also. When the weather gets nice, it's not uncommon. You may have posted it or seen people post, hey, where's a dog-friendly patio that we can have lunch? Where's a great place that we can sit outside for a Sunday brunch? And there's competition for those people, and if you're going to have an outdoor seating area, as do some others, you might as well have the absolute best. You can have water features. You can have an outdoor kitchen there. They're going to work with you on that. Daniel Hunter does a fantastic job of taking what it is you want to do and making it into a thing. That's what he did with our backyard. HunterHardscapes.com, also under Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com. Today is the day that Democrats will be voting in, people across the country. There's a number of primaries, but eyes are on Maine to see if Democrats are going to finally acknowledge their admiration for Nazism, which is socialism. The Nazis were the German Workers' Socialist Party. And so it makes sense that Democratic socialists like Bernie Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez are campaigning on behalf of Graham Plattner in Maine, the Democrat candidate, who's a socialist and also has an admiration for Nazis. This is all very clear. It's not confusing. They're all cut from the same cloth, same ideological cloth. Post-October 7th, the largest attack on the Jewish people since the Holocaust, has really, really given people a clarity when it comes to the base of the Democrat Party. Think about how much that really changed people's understanding of where anti-Semitism was. The Democrats had done a good job of projecting and making a lot of people believe that anti-Semitism was something on the right. I mean, how often do they talk about neo-Nazis? Well, this was one of the big selling points of the Southern Poverty Law Center. This is why Joe Biden ran. Because of the neo-Nazis in Charlottesville. None of which, best I know, even had Nazi tattoos. The Democrats had managed to create this false narrative that neo-Nazism was something that is on the right. Well, now they're running this guy that is, by all accounts, in his belief system and his behavior, exactly what the Democrats describe as a neo-Nazi. Well, suddenly it's fine. Oh, no problem with that. Fetterman made the comment, and it was so straightforward and so true last week. He said, when I was growing up, if somebody had a Nazi tattoo, it was pretty fair to assume that they liked the Nazis. It was just that's why you got the tattoo. There's not a lot of confusion there. This is audio of a woman being interviewed regarding Graham Plattner's Nazi tattoo. in which she's asked, is this a problem? This is a white liberal woman, probably in her 60s. She's not only asked if she has a problem with him having a tattoo showing his admiration for the Nazis, but follows it up with, what if it were the flag of Israel?
Tone Pope tattoo, the Nazi tattoo. How do you kind of?
Somebody said that they talked to somebody who had seen one of those or wore one of those, and it was silver, and it didn't even occur to him that it was the same thing. I think people are making as much of it as they can. These don't have a lot of substance around anything else. And if they did, we'd hear about it. Believe me. They are trolling for dirt.
What if he has like a Israeli flag tattoo or something? Would that be a deal breaker?
For me?
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
That would be
Israeli? Yeah.
Well, of course it. These people. Now, this, of course, would be a lead news item. If it were the other way around, everything about this race is exposing the projection that has been coming from the Democrat Party for years. And frankly, it's glorious. And it really began after October 7th with all the Democrat activists all over the college campuses and in some high schools celebrating and calling for finishing what Hitler started. Blaming the Jews, that those who did it had no other choice because the Jews were the bad guys. It's the same thing Hitler said. They were controlling the economy. We got to do something about them. It's their fault. When the socialists began rounding up and demonizing the Jews, they weren't doing it saying, "Yo, we're just bad guys. This is what we do." They did it as justification for protection against them because they were the bad guys. And it's the same thing that the socialists say today in the Democrat Party and many of the non-socialist Democrats, which most of them are. They don't all identify that way. This awakening in which people began to see this vile perspective, this evil perspective from it's a combination of the future and the current Democrat Party because these are the up-and-comers. And I say, future because they are young and they're not controlling the party, but I say and current because they are having a massive influence. They have altered the direction of the Democrat Party to where they're fully embracing this ideology and now voting these people in. I think it's New Jersey, a Democrat primary for Congress, a guy who was buddies with the blind sheik, the terrorist who was responsible for the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, the failed attempt to bring it down, which would lead to 9/11. Like a guy that was his character witness at trial. The Democrats just picked him over other Democrats to represent them in Congress. And now you have Democrats that are openly acknowledging, and you hear how dismissive she is when asked about, do you have a problem with his Nazi tattoo? And she's like, well, somebody told me that they heard someone say that you couldn't really, she has no interest. It doesn't matter to her. She clearly doesn't care. She's fine with it. It does not conflict with her belief system. Oh, but a Jew flag? Well, yeah, that would definitely be a disqualifier, she says. Meanwhile, Democrat Senate candidate Graham Plattner used a profane insult against John Fetterman during a Sunday town hall in Maine, escalating the feud. The Senate really is a place of, it's a lot about relationships, and I don't want to go down there and simply be non-functional, Plattner said in response to a question from a supporter about who he's looking forward to working with in Washington, D.C. if elected. Quote, I mean, as you can all probably tell, we got a lot of criticism about the way the government functions, but in order for us to make it functional, we're going to have to do stuff, and you can't just go down there and be John Fetterman and just kind of sort of be an a-hole. Now, you look at these two side by side. John Fetterman, policy-wise, is wrong-headed. 90+% of the time he votes with Democrats because he is one. He's a Democrat. But has he ever done anything or behaved towards someone that would qualify him as some sort of a-hole? Compared to Graham Plattner? This is the perspective of the Democrat Party, a Nazi admirer who says women, if they don't want to get raped, they shouldn't drink around people they don't know, that black people are horrible tippers. He uses homophobic language. He's talked about our military in horrific ways, falsely accused the American sniper of killing innocent people just to get his kill rate up. He's got a slew of ex-girlfriends that talk about what a piece of work he is. But to the Democrats, Fetterman is the a-hole, not Plattner? Well, that's an interesting perspective. I also can't help but note how wonderful it is that this is happening in Maine, in what the left really considers to be one of the more elite areas of our country compared to the heathens in the South, where we're told white supremacy is breeding. Like, that's where all the hillbillies are that talk about women and black people and have Nazi tattoos, yet it's actually in the Democrat Party, and it's up there in hoity-toity Maine, not Mississippi, not Alabama, not Louisiana. Nope. Up there in highbrow country, where the elites are having their cocktail parties. Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. A heat advisory is in effect for the entire listening area until 7 a.m. Wednesday. Today, we'll see a slight chance for showers in the morning, otherwise mostly sunny with a high near 89, heat index values as high as 100. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 72. For your Wednesday, sunny with a high near 89, heat index values as high as 97. And for Thursday, a chance for showers in the afternoon, otherwise sunny with a high of 90.
All right, so it's a surprise to no one. Karen Bass, Nithya Raman are now the projected winners in the primary for the Los Angeles mayoral race and will likely face each other in November's runoff. This after tens of thousands of ballots for the socialist candidate began pouring in. Now, some may want to contend that, well, mail-in ballots always are strong for the Democrat. Up to Election Day, and when they started counting, Spencer Pratt was the one who dominated when it came to mail-in ballots. But then there's that window of time after the election where they just sit and wait for them to get mailed in. And suddenly that turned around. Now explain that one. See, these are the inconsistencies that normal people recognize as an inconsistency, which it just doesn't make sense. Tens of thousands? This is a woman, and I don't know how closely you followed it, but universally was panned as horrible during the one of the primary debates that they had between the three of them. Every outlet, while it may have had a mixed bag of Karen Bass and Pratt's performance, they all universally said Raman did horrible. It's just embarrassing. Showed she didn't know what she was talking about. Completely unprepared. We're supposed to believe that, and it would be one thing if she had some sort of stellar performance, and then you consistently saw mail-in ballots overwhelmingly coming in for her. If she had been out on the campaign trail and people were saying, yeah, she's the hot ticket item right now, that wasn't even that was not even considered a possibility. People were making predictions on whether or not Spencer Pratt would get 50+%, or if he would lead Karen Bass. Never in the cards because of how bad of a candidate Raman was. Was anyone conceiving that she would pull it out? That's why election night, when she was so far behind, she had that, like, bawling her eyes out because it was such a humiliating defeat that she recognized. She wasn't up there saying, hey, listen, we know that our supporters, they decided that they were going to mail in ballots late, so, hey, we expect this to turn around. At that moment, she thought she had been shellacked and she was humiliated. So why the turnaround? Now here, let me explain some of the gaslighting that's going on. Anyone who notices these irregularities, they are dismissing as conspiracy theorists. It's just a conspiracy. The idea that a Democrat stealing or Democrats stealing or rigging elections is a conspiracy is off the charts. But nonetheless, and it's actually a conspiracy of a conspiracy. So they claim that the idea of cheating taking place, so Spencer Pratt would not be an option in the general election, is ridiculous because Karen Bass wanted Spencer Pratt to be the candidate that she ran against because she believed that Spencer Pratt would be the easier candidate to win or to beat. And so Karen Bass did not want Raman to run against her. Well, first off, even if that's true, Raman is part of the Democrat Party. She's part of the Democrat Socialist Party. These are the people who cheat. It's not like it's one little... It's not simply the Karen Bass Democrats that have the potential for cheating. Democrat elections have cheating all the time. And Democrats know it because Democrats oftentimes sue each other over rigged elections when it's a primary. This happens consistently across this country. So while Democrats try to portray it as, well, it just doesn't even make sense. It's a ludicrous idea that Karen Bass would rig the election and cheat to get Rahman in there when she really wanted to go up against Spencer Pratt. No one's saying she's the one who cheated. Maybe it's the campaign that pulled from a distant third, suddenly finding tens of thousands of ballots that were mailed in with her name on them. Maybe it was those people. Not a real stretch. Again, Democrat socialist. Incidentally, this is how socialist elections go. This is how Maduro ended up being president down in Venezuela. Actually, they didn't even bother to cheat. He just said, I lost. Guess what? I'm going to be president anyway. I mean, so this is very common operation. You look at any socialist country, this is how the elections play out. Now, aside from the Rahman people, there's a national interest here as well for the Democrat Party as a whole. They're already going to be dealing with the Plattner situation unless they replace him. Now, in Maine, there's a caveat. When he wins, they have until July 13th at 5 p.m. the party does to replace him if he wanted to drop out. Now, I don't know that he would drop out regardless. The guy seems a little psychotic. You know, some people that are candidates, scandals pop up, and like Swalwell, for example, and, you know, he may be a lot of things, but he seemed to be aware enough that he was in a really bad place and it would be in his best interest to drop out of the campaign. That was something Democrats arranged for the purposes of altering the landscape of the gubernatorial race. I don't think Plattner has that in. I think he's got such a screw loose up there. Even if all the Democrats came out and you know, threatened to reveal all sorts of horrific things and imprison him and all that, I don't know that would stop him. I think he's crazy enough, literally crazy enough, that he'd be like, I'll do it anyway. I'll go on a suicide mission. So I think Democrats, and it's one of the reasons they're fully embracing him, they recognize that the anti-Semitism within their party is overwhelming and it's inevitable he's going to win. But this is also going to be a problem on a national stage because it is going to show where the Democrat Party is headed. And if Spencer Pratt were still in or were to go on to the general election, all the national attention that's getting paid to that race is another focus. It's another highlighting of what Democrats do when they get put in charge. And this does not benefit them. Democrats do not ever win when people focus on the results of their handiwork. They do not want people to look at the job that they've done. This is why they just paint the other side as being evil. That's why you vote for me. I'm the good guy. They're the evil person. Don't look at my past work, please. And so while there may be some belief that Karen Bass would have a more difficult time beating Rahman than she would Spencer Pratt, and so she may have wanted Spencer Pratt to make it onto the finals, but that doesn't mean that that's what's in the best interest of the national party. And it's better for them going into the midterms not to have that, to have people quit paying attention to that election. And with Spencer Pratt out of it, flyover country, independent voters that are in between the two coasts that are watching that with interest, that are seeing the devastating results of Democrat power and hearing the message of just a normal person, they want that to stop. They don't want that going on through the midterm elections because it could have an impact on how people vote in their own states. So there are a lot of compelling reasons the Democrats have for making sure that Spencer Pratt did not make it to the general election. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you, Springfield Livestock Marketing Center. They've got a couple of sales coming up this week. Today, they will host their Holstein steer special and then their dairy sale starting at 10 a.m. And then tomorrow, they will have their weekly feeder sale, and that will start at 9 a.m. Now, if you can't make it out there, they always have live streaming and online bidding as well. I do also want to mention that starting tomorrow, every Wednesday, we will broadcast live out at Springfield Livestock from their cafe, Mingles. So maybe you have never been out there and you want to check it out, or maybe you just want to hang out with us. Now is the great time to do that. You can grab coffee at 7:30 a.m. Breakfast will start at 8. And to check out other upcoming sales, just visit their website, springfieldlivestock.com. And of course, you can find all of the contact information for Springfield Livestock under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at KSGF.com.
Before traffic, just one other fun nugget regarding the California elections. Gavin Newsom signed a bill removing a layer of mail-in ballot signature verification just days before the start of the state's elections. Senate Bill 73 in California was signed into law May 27th and immediately took effect just before California's elections began on June 2nd. According to a press release from the Democrat Secretary of State, it was enacted to protect the integrity of California's elections. So you know what that means. The law banned mail-in ballot observers, the people who watch the ballots being processed to make sure that they are being processed properly. It bans them from contesting the validity of false signatures. So if there are signatures that clearly don't match, the new law, in the name of election integrity in California, bans the observers from noting irregularities in the signatures. So in other words, what's the point? Which is the point. Latest traffic update.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. A heat advisory is in effect for the entire listening area until 7 a.m. Wednesday. Today, we will see a slight chance for showers in the morning, otherwise mostly sunny with a high near 89, heat index values reaching up to 100 today. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 72. For your Wednesday, sunny with a high near 89 and heat index values as high as 97. And for Thursday, a chance for showers in the afternoon, otherwise mostly sunny with a high of 90.
Someone on the Pyramid Roofing Company text line asked if that is Josh singing on the Pyramid Roofing jingle.
It is. It's pretty good.
Is that? Did we talk about that was him singing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a couple weeks ago when he was on with us out at Scramblers, we talked about it.
Did I ask this already? Does he normally sing, or was he like, I want to take a crack at this?
I think he just...
So I guess it is him,
Yeah, I guess he just does it kind of on the side for fun.
Go on the road.
He's pretty good.
Wonder if he's got some sort of alter ego and he's actually out there
He's got
performing concerts.
Yeah, he's got a band.
Yes, it is him, for those asking. Someone else, let's see. They sent in a pic of, it's a graph that is showing vote counts for the LA mayor's race, and it's posted saying Democrats overwhelmingly vote late by mail, but only Nitha Raman Democrats, not Karen Bass Democrats.
It's true.
And they said, hey, is this true? I don't know the source. That does appear to be the way that it's playing out. And as I noted, one of the articles early on, just right after or the evening of the election itself, noted that it was Spencer Pratt actually dominating mail-in ballots. But then after, those are the ones who came in ahead of time. And then after all of those initial votes were counted, it's like, hey, well, clearly this is going to be Karen Bass and Spencer Pratt, third place, Nitha Raman, she's way behind. That's when suddenly all those votes started to come in. This is why it's such a bad idea to have this window in which, we'll accept ballots for, so they accept ballots after the initial vote count is. So what does that tell you in a situation like this? Whoever's in third place, if you can find a bunch of ballots, and you have a week in which you can get all of these ballots together. I mean, it's just ripe with corruption. It's so absolutely corrupt. And as I mentioned earlier, it's not as if, I mean, universally, she was panned as a horrible candidate. She was just really, really bad. Any sort of excited support that was there dissipated after that one big debate took place, and all of the different outlets, liberal outlets, that may have given sort of a mixed bag review between Karen Bass and Spencer Pratt, they all said the same thing about Raman, that she was a huge disappointment that just fizzled out. And the idea that overwhelmingly it's just such a joke. And can we again recognize that the media is just so absolutely corrupt, so corrupt, that they would pretend as if you're insane if you look at that and think it's suspicious. Well, that's not proof of anything. I mean, come on, it's common sense. Now, does that prove? No, it doesn't prove. That's not proof of election fraud. But common sense tells you that trajectory suddenly swinging after it's observed that Raman is a distant third. And then when they start counting ballots that come in after the voting is done, and they're all, I mean, you get it. It's just common sense. Okay. Also common sense. Senior Minnesota state officials allegedly hired outside investigators to silence whistleblowers in an attempt to cover up widespread state social service fraud, a House committee report released Monday found. A 200-page staff report from the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform found that Democrat Minnesota Governor Tim Walz's state administration intimidated and retaliated against state employees who raised concerns about fraud, soliciting private investigators to reveal employees' personal details. Well, this is no surprise. See, the presentation of Tim Walz as just some goofball who once again screwed up and was incompetent is, to me, a false picture. This is the true picture. This is a guy that, while maybe not a mastermind of the stealing of hundreds of millions or billions of taxpayer dollars to go to corrupt individuals, most of which aren't even actually citizens of this country. He may not have been the mastermind behind it, but he was certainly doing everything he could, or his administration was, to shut down anyone who was pointing it out. The report, titled "The Cost of Doing Nothing: How Tim Walz and Keith Ellison," who's the Attorney General, fueled Minnesota's fraud explosion, exposed that senior state officials, as high as allegedly Governor Walz himself, were aware of widespread fraud for years and neglected to respond to reports. A Minnesota Department of Education official who contacted the FBI told federal investigators she was pressured at every turn by her superiors to stop raising fraud concerns and was hand-slapped when she continued to investigate, according to the report. The MDE official also reported that she was warned by state administrators to stop digging into things. That's a direct quote, as it would appear she was targeting certain groups. This is the race card. You know, if you keep looking into this, we will label you a racist. Dozens of other whistleblowers reported that they too were told to stay silent about fraud concerns by the Minnesota Department of Human Services because they would be labeled racist or Islamophobic. DHS also told state employees that raising fraud concerns would harm the state. Whistleblowers reported the DHS conducted arbitrary investigations to photograph the whistleblowers' cars and their houses, monitored their phones and computers, and asked employees where their kids attended school, like the mafia. Then temporary Commissioner Shireen Gandhi at DHS confirmed in a testimony copied in the report that the State Department used outside entities to conduct these investigations of employees, but could not confirm whether independent law firms were used. Gandhi also confirmed in her testimony that DHS management would regularly meet and check in on employees who had reported fraud concerns. Gandhi continued to conduct these check-ins on DHS whistleblower Faye Bernstein a year or two after her investigatory leave. Bernstein alleged Gandhi shamed her in a meeting after she raised concerns about fraud and then excluded her from further meetings on the topic. Whistleblowers also allege that former State Commissioner Jody Harpstead held a division-wide meeting telling attendees that employees would be punished if they reported concerns about fraud in DHS programs. DHS employee Emmanuel Nalla told colleagues that he did intelligence research with the Army and appears to have threatened to provide the IP addresses to former colleagues in order to find the locations of whistleblowers' email addresses, an email obtained through a public data request showed. Governor Walz, of course, testified that he was totally unaware of the email, but agreed it would be intimidation to confront employees with their personal information, according to an interview transcript located in the report. The report also alleged that DHS de-anonymized an internal fraud hotline for employees in an attempt to intimidate fraud reporters. After whistleblowers later created an anonymous external email to report fraud, DHS blocked the email address. Whistleblowers reported that their fraud hotline tips were sent to Human Resources and then used against them. The hotline was originally anonymous, but was de-anonymized under Gandhi's tenure as Deputy Commissioner of Governor Walz, of HR, Governor Walz appointed Gandhi as commissioner of DHS in February of 26, but removed her in May before a confirmation hearing amid all of the scrutiny in her response to fraud allegations. And what is, again, and listen, I know this sounds one-sided so often, but these things do tend to be one-sided when it comes to the corruption, at least to the degree that we see this corruption. What is really disheartening as a human and as an American is that the majority of people in that state are fine with all that money being stolen. Because no one is, the people aren't demanding accountability, not a majority of them. The people are not going to, in an upcoming election, throw the bums out. They'll keep them in. Now, they may keep different, they may swap Democrats, but it's all the same apparatus. When you have a collection of people in which the majority have so little self-worth and such low standards and have been conditioned to hate everything about the political opposition so much that even when their own money, to the tune of at least hundreds of millions of dollars, are stolen to go to corrupt people, and they say, that's fine with us. That is a bad sign. Let's jump to traffic. I'm Nick Reed. The socialist mayor of Seattle, Katie Wilson, who, by the way, has never had a real job. She was living with her parents most recently when she ran for mayor. I mention this because Democrats, of course, claim that Spencer Pratt was not qualified to be mayor of L.A. Because he had never been in government before. At least he had a family in his own home until Karen Bass helped it burn to the ground, as opposed to the celebrated Democrat socialist mayor of Seattle, who had none of those things. Nothing adult in her life whatsoever. One of her promises is that she was going to, by the end of her first term, create 4,000 homeless units, 500 of which would be set up in time for the World Cup, so that the streets could be cleaned up for the elites that come to watch World Cup games. Of course, can't do that for the average citizen, but for the elites that are coming to visit Seattle, put on a show, put on a display, and have at least 500 promised units prior to the World Cup. Well, World Cup is getting underway, and Seattle is set to open 50 of them. The 70-square-foot single units include 24/7 services for addiction recovery. They also will have bathrooms, laundry, daily food drop-offs. And bonus, they will allow the open use of illegal drugs. Now, think about what a cruel, sick joke that is to the people that actually do want to recover. Because one of the offerings is, hey, there's addiction recovery here. So, in the Democrat-run city of Seattle, if you're a person who's addicted to drugs and you desperately are seeking help and they tell you, oh, we have an opportunity here with this addiction recovery center. But then they are going to also allow people within the same facility to openly use drugs around that person. Now, does that sound like an environment in which they really intend for people who want help recovering and getting off of drugs, that they're going to be able to do so when you surround them with drug users? And so what you have here is the sick prioritizing of those who want to continue to do illegal drugs over those who are actually wanting potentially to get themselves off of the drugs. Got to have them dependent to vote Democrat. Brookline Door Works, many of you are probably familiar. They have been around, somewhat synonymous with Springfield, particularly when it comes to quality and higher-end garage doors, but really when it also comes to making sure that you have the routine maintenance or you have the emergency maintenance done. Many of you may have heard that huge, loud bang whenever you close the garage door, try to open the garage door as you're walking into the house and you realize the spring is broken and you cannot get it lifted up. And maybe this has happened at your shop and it's in the middle of the night. What are you going to do? It's on the weekend. Brookline Door Works, 24/7. They have somebody on call 24/7. So whether that is residential or commercial, I know I've been in that position before years ago, this exact same deal, and I didn't even know who to call. Fortunately for me, it was during the week. I was thinking, thank goodness it's not during the weekend because I'm just going to get a voicemail and I don't know, are they going to call me back? Do I have to wait till Monday? None of those concerns with Brookline Door Works. It's why area fire departments use Springfield fire departments, for example, and many others use Brookline Door Works for their maintenance because they're on call just like they are. BrooklineDoorWorks.com. You can also find them under Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com. News in 60 seconds. Springfield's Talk 1041. Yep, welcome everyone. My name's Nick Reed. Trump, depending on the story you read, either received thunderous applause and cheers and chants of USA at Madison Square Garden for Game 3 of the NBA Finals between the Knicks and the Spurs, or he was booed. Now, I suspect, like most things, it was a combination of the two. I do find it a bit appropriate, maybe, that he would receive boos at a higher rate than he might at some other sporting event. And let me tell you why. Do you know what the average ticket cost has been for these games? Have you followed this? Do you know what they?
No.
It's like $40,000.
Oh my goodness.
Floor seats over $1 million.
Whoa.
Like the up furthest ones are like 11,000. The worst seats in the house are $11,000.
I can't even imagine that.
This is not a venue and an event of average people. These are elites. These are people who, and most of these people, if they go, they're probably going with family or it's a couple or, but these are people that can drop hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you're talking about the a lot of New York, New Jersey 1%ers. And as we have recognized over the last several elections, ever since Donald Trump first ran for the presidency, the blue-collar average worker has shifted away from the Democrats to MAGA. And increasingly over time, we have seen that the uber wealthy gravitate towards the Democrat Party. It is the party of the rich and the elite, which is so hilarious because there are still Democrat voters who cling to this idea, well, Republicans are for the rich and the Democrats are for the working man. If you still think that, you are so out of touch. You are so out of touch. What cultural arena arguably is the most anti-Trump? I'd say probably Hollywood. Or you're going to tell us the Scarlett Johanssons and the name any rich celebrity actor that you want to. That's the working class American today. I've always wondered how you people on the left who believe that the Democrat Party is the party of the working man reconcile that with the fact that the richest, most elite grouping of people, that being Hollywood celebrities and musicians, a lot of musicians as well, that they all are lockstep in with the Democrat Party. What does that tell you? Wake up. It is the party that is populated with people who don't have to suffer the negative impacts of Democrat policies while being able to, virtue signal themselves as caring more than anyone. Oh, it's the party of compassion. We're the party that cares for the poor. We're the party that are allies of all these different groups and organizations, and it's they don't have to suffer the consequences. Their lives are not different on a daily basis because of Democrat policies. And I look at this NBA game and these games where the cheapest tickets were around $11,000, and on average you're talking, I think it's $46,000, $50,000, depending on the article that was written. These are the rich elites. Yeah, when you have a stadium filled with 1%ers from New Jersey, New York. Now, obviously, you're going to have a lot of people that are traveling, but they're 1%ers. Yeah, they're probably going to be disproportionately Democrat because that's the Democrat Party today. It is no longer the party of the working class. And those that are working class that still cling to it, you're relics. They don't care about you. You're clinging to a fantasy. There were a couple of stories about how when Trump announced that he was going to this most recent game, that the ticket prices plummeted, and you could now get them for just under $6,000. $6,000? The media and the left are trying to portray this, and this is how goofy they are, as that's how unpopular Trump is, that it caused the pricing of the tickets to plummet. Because somehow what you're supposed to believe is that people who are willing to pay, who love either the Spurs or the Knicks so much that they're willing to spend tens of thousands of dollars, won't go and enjoy the game, enjoy the culture, enjoy this passion of theirs because Donald Trump may show up. Does that make sense to you? No. Let me tell you why the ticket prices dropped. Because as much as people on the left want to claim that they believe that every assassination attempt against Donald Trump is some sort of conspiracy theory that was set up in order to make him look good, they know that that's not true. And they feared that probably one of their own might carry out some sort of attack, whether it's in the form of an explosive or shooting spree, and you know, that they may get caught up in it. That's why those prices dropped. Because people know that when Trump is anywhere out in the public, there is a really good chance that some left-wing activist is going to try to assassinate him, and just like in Pennsylvania, an innocent citizen may end up losing their life instead. We're going to get a update on the news here, and then there's an interesting story regarding a Dr. Jamal Bryant, who is a black activist, and he has in the past been influential in some of these boycotts where they're like, oh, we're going to show the world, and black people boycott, we're going to bring the economy down, show them who's really in charge, and you don't remember any of this happening because it doesn't make any sort of difference. Well, there is this battle brewing between him and many within the Asian community because of a posting made by an Asian American regarding black people claiming that they are going to boycott Asian products. And I wanted to share some of that with you coming up because it's interesting for a number of different reasons. So that is in just moments. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. A heat advisory is in effect until 7 a.m. Wednesday. Today, we will see a slight chance for showers in the morning, otherwise mostly sunny with a high near 89 and heat index values as high as 100. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 72. For your Wednesday, sunny with a high near 89, heat index values as high as 97. And for Thursday, a chance for showers in the afternoon, otherwise sunny with a high of 90.
Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you, Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. It's not officially summer yet, but this week is definitely going to feel like it. Today and tomorrow, we are under a heat advisory, and we are going to see temps in the lower 90s for the rest of the week. So if your AC is struggling to keep up, or maybe you woke up this morning and your AC is not working at all, don't worry, because I want to recommend Russell and his team over at Foreman Mechanical. Now, they offer residential and commercial services, and they also have a 24/7 emergency service line. So if something pops up after what's considered those normal business hours, they will get back to you and they will get you scheduled in as quickly as possible. If you read reviews for the Foreman team, that's one thing that people talk about quite frequently, is just how quickly the Foreman team was able to get to them and get their unit back up and running. If it is time to have the Foreman team out to your home or your business, reach out to Russell today. You can find all of the contact information for Foreman Mechanical under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
There's a story in Black Enterprise about a potential boycott led by Dr. Jamal Bryant, and he's a left-wing activist. He ran for Congress for just a brief period of time, I think in Baltimore, as a Democrat, dropped out. He's the pastor of some church, and he was married to a real housewife of one of those shows. He is considered to be responsible for the calls and the push for black people to boycott Target there, because when they got rid of their the DEI, that racism, and he did not care for that, and so he called on all black people to stop going to Target, initially for 40 days, but it's indefinite. So if you happen to see a black person in Target, I guess that means they're a traitor to their race, because they are not abiding by Dr. Jamal Bryant's call for a boycott. He is now suggesting a boycott against Asians. Now, this apparently all came about, and this is an article in Black Enterprise, because I read lots of different periodicals. There was recently this court case that involved an Asian shop owner who shot and killed a black shoplifter, and he went through a trial and was found not guilty. And so there's been a lot of anger in the black community about that. And some people saying that we need to boycott Asian stores and Asian products. Now that's the premise of this entire controversy. Now, Black Enterprise notes that Dr. Jamal Bryant might be gearing up for another mass protest. This time, though, it isn't against a large corporation conglomerate, but Asian-owned businesses en masse. Bryant intimated at a potential boycott in response to an incendiary video of an Asian man trash-talking the black community, even daring black Americans to boycott. Bryant captioned on his Instagram thread profile, quote, "Well, you heard it from them. They said they don't need our money and that we can't survive without them. You all want to test his theory." Black Enterprise notes, presumably the man's commentary was triggered by the black community call to action to boycott Asian businesses due to the recent acquittal of a South Carolina store owner in the fatal shooting of a 14-year-old black kid in 2023. The message in the video is fully loaded. So I'm going to read to you what the Asian person posted that Dr. Bryant is responding to. Quote, "I love when the black community says boycott Asian businesses. Please do. We'll get rid of the Chinese takeout, the dry cleaning, the laundromats. Let's get rid of the liquor stores as well. Get rid of the Jordans you guys wear, the Nikes you wear, the shower caps, the Hondas, the Hyundais, all your car electronics, the electronics in your home, the Sony, the TV system, your sound system, the microphone that you guys use to rap and speak about awareness for the black culture and the hip-hop culture. That's all made in Asia too. After cataloging a series of Asian-owned businesses and products that consumers widely use, the man emphasized the economic strength in the Asian community and mocked Black Americans about being outperformed, saying, quote, "We have our own Chinatown. We have our own Korean-town. You think we really need you guys to benefit off of and make money? You're being outworked by immigrants who barely speak English, and you're not embarrassed. Go to the bank, start your own business, and deal with your own people. I want to see your own women get on their hands and knees and do pedicures and manicures and deal with nasty attitudes, okay? Please boycott Asian business. I'm all for it." Dr. Bryant, who played a major role in the mass boycott and black exodus of Target, is not alone in his reaction to the inflammatory rant. One of his followers posting, "I wish like hell black people would really test that theory." Well, don't just wish, do it. It's not just do it. Went on to say, if they don't need black people's money, why are all their stores, shops in black people neighborhoods damn near every corner? As the footage made the rounds across social media, a unified response among black social media users is that it is time to extract black dollars from Asian businesses and redirect funds to black businesses. One TikTok user saying, "Very good. We can show you better than we can tell you." Another saying, "And just like that, he gave me the push I needed to leave Asian nail shops behind and find me a black-owned retail shop." And it goes on and on and on. Now, I'm going to predict here that this will have as much of an impact on Asian businesses and Asian products, manufactured products, as the boycott has, the Target boycott has had, and that'll be nothing. Most people don't even know that it's going on because it just doesn't happen. It doesn't work. Part of the reason, though, I bring this up is because it brings to the surface a race relations reality that I think most people are aware of but don't ever talk about. And that is, when you look at all of the different races, what's the narrative in our country? The narrative is that there's only one race that can be racist. It's the white people. White people are privileged. They're inherently racist, and everyone else gets along famously. When in fact, the reality is quite arguably to the contrary. That if there's one race that is populated with people that will bend over backwards to self-criticize and be allies of and whip themselves as being privileged and talk about we need to provide reparations, it is the white race. While, and this is the thing that people don't like to talk about, you have what is oftentimes viewed and called out as racism between the Asian community and the black community, the Asian community, the Hispanic community and the black community and the Hispanic community. In fact, one of the observations, and I played audio of this from some left-wing podcaster who had spent all her life in, I think maybe it was California, it was some blue area of the country, and ended up moving to, I believe it was Texas, and realizing that all of the racism that she had ever really observed in real life, in what she assessed as racism, actually was not in the South, but in fact in her blue little haven. That down in the South, you go, and I told this story when I played the audio, a guy that I had worked for who was born and raised in Wisconsin, the Milwaukee area, very liberal, very segregated, by the way, run by Democrats, taking his sons down to Florida, driving through areas like Mississippi, and believing the stereotype about all the racism. And he said he walked into an Applebee's and he looked around and realized that there wasn't a table that wasn't mixed race. Not something you oftentimes see in the cities, at least not to the degree that you see in the South. These are the observations from people who are on the left, who have spent their entire lives living in the cities, and they see the groups of races that really battle it out. And while we've got this narrative in our country that there's one group of racist, it's the white people, and everyone else gets along harmoniously, when in fact the reality is this sort of thing that is in this Black Enterprise article is not unusual. And the conflicts, particularly in Democrat-run cities, between Hispanics and blacks and Asians and blacks, and I'm sure there's some cross-sectioning there as well, is very, very prevalent, much more so than between white people and black people. Now, of course, one can talk all day about why it is that way. I'm just noting that that is a reality that runs contrary to what we're all supposed to believe. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Ozarks elder law, you're married, you assume that your husband or your wife, something horrible happens, car accident, stroke, whatever it may be, and then there's that life and death decision that has to be made, and the hospital's like, all right, well, here are the options, and you're like, no, let's try to save her. Let's just wait. If the hospital disagrees, and you think, but I'm her husband, so I get the final say, the answer to that is no, at least in Missouri, unless you have legal document saying that you are the one that gets to make those decisions. Conventional wisdom tells us by default the spouse is the one that ultimately gets to make the decision. And it's understandable why people believe that. Part of it's because oftentimes the hospitals do let the spouse make the decision, but they don't have to. And there are a lot of people that have a heartbreaking realization when that moment comes and they're told, sorry, but this is our decision, not yours. Just a few weeks ago, I went with my own mother as she finished up all of the different paperwork regarding a lot of these decisions. And then she took that paperwork to her doctor so that it got in the system. So now the hospital doesn't have the final decision. Should she ever find herself in that position, you should do the same thing. Now, of course, Ozarks Elder Law, they take care of so much more as well. Trusts, wills, you name it. What do you need to do? You may not know. That's what they're there to answer. And that consultation doesn't cost you a thing. They'll go over what you need to do. They're going to give you a little homework ahead of time so it's specific to your situation. And then they'll let you know, here's what it'll cost for us to draw up these papers and make it all legal for you. And then you decide if you want to do that. 10 area locations at free consultation. Set it up. OzarksElderLaw.com.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First, meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. A heat advisory is in effect for the entire listening area until 7 a.m. Wednesday. Today we will see a slight chance for showers in the morning, otherwise mostly sunny with a high near 89 and heat index values as high as 100. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 72. For your Wednesday, sunny with a high near 89 and heat index values as high as 97. And for Thursday, a chance for showers in the afternoon, otherwise sunny with a high near 90.
The WNBA is acknowledging the 250th anniversary of the United States of America by having a 250 patch on some of the uniforms. And one of the players from Las Vegas, a forward by the name of Breonna Turner, is complaining about adding the USA 250 patches to the All-Star jersey. Turning to social media, calling out what she says is the deep irony of forcing WNBA players to wear the patch, which celebrates the upcoming birthday. Quote, the irony of all the USA 250 stuff is that the vast majority of people in America today would not have been free 250 years ago. Whoever called for the WNBA All-Star uniforms to have the USA 250 patches should have thought that through, considering no WNBA player would have been free 250 years ago. The majority wouldn't even have had their freedom 100 years ago. Well, there also wasn't basketball 250 years ago. That was 250 years ago. And the fact of the matter, look, here's the thing. Take it or leave it. These people, on one hand, want to enjoy the benefits that they experience in the United States of America. For example, getting paid to pay a game you love. But then want to bitch about the country, the very country that they are benefiting from. It's like these people that will utilize their privilege in the United States of America to compete in the Olympics, to train here, to propel themselves to the Olympics, and then go and not want to represent the U.S. Well, if it weren't for the U.S., you wouldn't be there. That's why you're there, is because of the offerings here in the United States of America that you chose to benefit from. Take it or leave it. I'm tired of this halvesies, the wanting the cake and the eat it too. These people that get to do what it is that they want to do in life, have this dream job of getting to play a game that you love. You become a sort, it may not be quite the level of celebrity status as other people, but, to a degree, they're going from town to town. People are paying, showing up to watch them and get their autographs and so forth. They get paid for it. It may not be hand over fist money, because they haven't produced those sorts of results, but still, they get to do so. You think of all the countries that she could be in and the things that she would be doing in those countries, namely an African country. Would she be living the life that she's living now? Being paid to play a game that she loves if she were still in Africa? In fact, part of what she notes here is that she says, yes, I know this was probably a financial decision at the end of the day, but still, we are some of the most elite female athletes. 250 years ago, we would have been breeders or in the fields working all day. What do you think the average woman in Africa does today? Take it or leave it. If you are so offended by this country that you don't want to wear something that recognizes the 250-year existence of the country, quit benefiting from it. See, they're not really committed to their grievance. Because the minute that their grievance might result in them not getting to live the lifestyle they want, well, then the grievance is just symbolic. We'll just go to social media and complain about it. People who really, truly, genuinely are committed to a cause, commit to the cause. I saw a recent poll that said, I think it's 55% of Democrats said they wish they lived in another country. Do it. This is one of the very annoying character traits of people on the left. They just whine, but they don't do anything about it. They complain about their lot in life, but they don't do anything about it. It's finger pointed at everyone. Well, I can't because of this. Do it. No one is begging you to stay. You can leave. You can go away. You can go to whatever country that you fantasize about. Now, ironically, wouldn't be nearly as easy as getting here into the United States because we have until the Trump administration, the most ludicrously lax immigration laws. And even when it comes to legal immigration, compared to the rest of the world, we are more strict more often than not. I mean, some of these countries you can't become citizens of, and you have to live there like 10 years, and you have to have $100,000 in your bank account, or you have to invest in a business. There are all these actions you have to take in order to demonstrate that you're going to be an actual contributing member of that country's society. Things that these leftists don't even do here in the United States of America. This is another reason you people on the left are considered so insufferable, because you're never happy. And you create a situation in which improvement is essentially irrelevant. We're a country in which countless people, white people, gave up their lives in order to make sure that we no longer had slavery. And for what? So people that have only benefited from living in the United States, some of these people who make tens of millions of dollars, celebrities, can just complain about what a racist country it is? Let me draw an analogy here. Say you're in a relationship with someone and it's somebody they struggle with alcoholism. And they're a real train wreck. Alcoholism in the worst way possible, and then they get sober. Not an easy thing to do. But they decide, I'm going to do it no matter how hard it is. And then, they're sober for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. And here they want to celebrate 10-year anniversary of sober, but at every given turn, all you do is throw back in their face what a piece of crap alcoholic they were once upon a time. Instead of being happy for them, happy for the relationship, happy that you're now in a healthy relationship with someone who has gotten over or abuse, or put any crux in there you want. You want to be miserable. If you did not want to be miserable, if you truly, genuinely wanted to be a happy individual, you wouldn't look back at something that you've never been through in your entire life, but people 8 generations or 5 generations removed were, and just focus and complain about that when you live this privileged life. The disgusting, pathetic, spoiled, entitled mentality of some of these people. And you don't have to be here. No one is begging you to be here. So either leave or shut up and quit complaining. It makes you a very unlikable person if you complain about your lot in life and how horrible it is and how much better it would be over here or there, but you don't do anything about it. You decide every day to get up and live the life that you claim is a miserable life when there are such better options for you out there. Quit your complaining and do something about it. If you don't like it, find the better place that you dream of. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers.
Thank you. The Pyramid Roofing Company, between the rain and now the higher temps, the fluctuating weather, it can be pretty brutal on your roof. It can actually cause shifting on your roof and what's known in the industry as nail pops. That's when a nail pops up from the shingle and it allows moisture to become trapped underneath that shingle. And that can lead to things like mold and then deck rot and just a whole lot of other not so fun things. So if you do have roof damage and you haven't had it looked at yet, make sure that you reach out to Josh and his team. They offer free roof inspections, emergency tarping services if you need it, and honestly, they will just shoot you straight on the work that needs to be done at your home. If it is time to have the Pyramid team out to your home, schedule that free roof inspection today. You can find all of the contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Yeah, so here's that. I referenced it, so I grabbed it. A poll shows many Democrats would rather live in a different country, wave goodbye to the U.S. This is the Elon University YouGov America 250 National Survey performed between August 30th and May 4th, asking, is there any other country on earth you would rather live in the United States today, which 55% of Democrats said yes. 38% of independents said yes. Only 10% of Republicans gave the same answer. A poll in 2025 found a majority of Democrat voters aligned with socialism over capitalism and supported far-left candidates. Now, I mean this 1,000% over. I would be more... Now, Venezuela's changed a bit because of the liberation of those people, but we'll use it as an example. And I think at the time, prior to the liberation of Venezuela, I made this point, and maybe it was with Cuba. This could still apply to Cuba. Cuba's communist, socialist. It's just a different management style, but it's the same philosophy. People in government are the ones who decide what your life is going to look like. Whether that's fascism or socialism or Marxism, it's different forms of management, but it's still the belief that you should be managed by the chosen people of government, as opposed to a liberty-centric republic in which we are individual people that exist because God gave us our rights, and we manage them, not government, okay? 1,000 times over. And I mean this, and I wish the Trump administration would do it. Come up with some sort of exchange program with a socialist country where we do citizen swap voluntarily. So people who live under the regime of Cuba, who want to come to the United States and live here, get them matched up with an American left-winger who wants to live in a socialist country and swap. And they give up their citizenship to the United States of America and accept citizenship in Cuba and vice versa. I would take 1,000 times over a person who has actually lived in socialism versus someone who thinks they want to live in socialism. I would do that swap. It would only help. It would only be beneficial. Part of the problem with these people on the left, and this is the failure, deliberately so, of the education system, is they have no idea what socialist countries even are. When you force them to start listing countries, they list countries that are not only not socialist, but are more liberty-focused than the United States is, particularly when it comes to economic freedom. So they'll point to Scandinavian countries. They will point to countries that do tend to have a larger focus on social programs, but the social programs are funded because of their free market system. Many of the countries that these people on the left believe are socialist countries, when it comes to the economic freedom index, they're almost always higher up on the freedom index than the United States is, because many of these countries don't have minimum wage laws. Many of these countries, they don't have unions that are in play calling the shots, that are forced by, they can exist, but it's up to the business owner if they want to do it. There aren't these government crafted laws that dictate the relationship. Don't have teachers' unions. The approaches that people on the left believe that these countries have that are socialist, they don't. They have less of them than the United States does. They don't even know what they're talking about. And hilariously, when, again, they are forced to name a country that they identify as a socialist country, it generally turns out to actually be less socialist than the United States. But they don't know this because they're ignorant. And there has been a complete failure in our public school systems to properly educate, largely because many of the people who run the colleges that certify the teachers and that end up being administrators, not always teachers, but often, and not always administrators, but the people that end up overriding and calling the shots are people that like government control. And so it doesn't serve them well to have children informed as to the actual results of government control in that capacity. So they have to keep it hidden. They have to misinform as to what it looks like. Instead of talking about what socialism actually does, it's all theoretical and how wonderful and what the lofty goals are. And what the motivation behind it is. See, capitalism is greed. The results don't matter. It's the motivation. It's evil, greedy. While socialism is about everyone sharing everything equally and everyone's happy. Of course, ignore the actual results and the human misery that results from it. This is why people who promote big government programs and socialism and communism always talk about the way that it should be, not the way it actually is. A few weeks ago, Democrats were attempting to recreate what occurred in Minnesota out in New Jersey because they need a couple more deaths on their hands in order to portray ICE as a bunch of Nazis. Distract from Graham Plattner, And what the Democrat governor and a lot of Democrat activists were out there claiming is that the conditions were so deplorable in the ICE detention center that there was a hunger strike underway. And the proof of it was all the rotting food that was being thrown out. It turns out during that exact same period of time, the commissary in which the detainees, the inmates, whatever you want to call them, are allowed to buy additional food, the revenue during that period of time tripled. In other words, the so-called hunger strike, they were tossing aside their provided meals, but then they were just feeding themselves from the commissary, which is a really weird option to have, given that we were told these were concentration camp level quality detention centers. Glenn Beck is coming up next. I will chat with you tomorrow. I'm Nick Reed.